Good morning and welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show radio to open the heart, heal the soul, awaken the consciousness. Good morning, Mr. Benny Mathers.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. How are you?
What's hello? What's hello in Egyptian?
Salam alaikum.
Is it?
Well, it's a greeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, it works for me. Yes. Only why do I ask that? It's because someone's heading somewhere very soon.
I know. And we are going
to not me.
Walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I don't even need to play anymore. You just got it locked in.
It's locked in. I'm trying to figure out how to use it on the trip, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's coming up next week, and I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. But, Benny's going to hold down the hatches. Is that what they say?
Yeah, hold down the fort. I guess
we'll figure out.
Yeah, hold down the fort. I'm not really sure what we're doing next week, but I'm sure you'll let me know, too, and we'll let our listeners know. But
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's all good. But I hope you have a fun and safe trip, though.
I do, too.
Yeah.
Yep. I got people very excited to go. I'm not sure I've ever had a group so excited to go. And
random question.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to go up the pyramids at all? Are they you can walk up them?
No, not on the outside. You're not actually supposed to do it.
Oh, okay, right. All right, that's what I thought. Just curious.
People do,
and they're not supposed to. They get in trouble.
Well, yeah, and then the joke is that there's always these dogs, and these dogs are always climbing the pyramids, right?
I mean, you can't stop them, really. I mean,
no, you can't, because they're going to go exploring. And then there are people who do hang gliders over the top of it and stuff. You have to get special permission for that kind of stuff.
Their version of the was the FAA, so it's EAA maybe. Egyptian
I think. Yeah. I think. We just made that up. Last time we went. There were some people flying, or some hang gliders and stuff going over the top of the Sphinx and the pyramids, and they were filming something. And so we're in the background of somebody's film down there walking around.
Hey, cool. Maybe you'll get some some royalty rights or something like that.
Who knows?
You don't even know. You're like, see that little black dot down there? That's me.
Yeah, and it happens every now and then. I was at the King Tut tomb one time, and there was somebody filming a documentary, and we ended up being in part of the documentary.
That's kind of cool, though. You're waving.
Extras in the back.
Hey.
The NPCs.
Yeah, right. NPCs.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope you're doing good, Benny.
Yeah, doing great. Just hanging out here. Real news flash with the Seattle Mariners. They have clinched the AL West for the division, so that's good for them. The Mariners are looking good. They have one other game that is a potential, so they might get a bye in the first round of the playoffs, which is even better. This could be the year. This could be. They're feeling it.
Yeah, my family was watching it last night, and my sister's like, they're so fun to watch right now.
Yeah,
they're winning.
Yeah, and they're just getting it done. And with our new skipper at the helm, Dan Wilson, who's a former Mariner catcher as well, from the 90s and all that. I think he's got a great bunch of boys working at it, and we're gonna do it.
Yep, we're gonna do it.
All right.
Yes.
So when you get back, you might have a lot of things to, you might know about it anyways, but.
I might need to catch up on things, though, because it is true when we're over there, we sort of disconnect a little bit.
As you should.
As we should, because we're going through history.
Yes.
Right? We're going through ancient things and doing ceremonies and praying and stuff like that, right? And having a good time, floating down the Nile on a boat. Yeah, exactly. Flying over things. Yeah. Well, there's a hot air balloon ride over Luxor. Yeah, when we're in Luxor, there's a hot air balloon ride over the temple. So
I'm always curious on how they operate. It seems in my head a little difficult to steer one of those, but I'm sure they know what they're doing. Obviously, well, I guess I'd like to learn.
Yeah, I know they pull.
You just go up and down, and you have to
go up and down and left and right. Yeah,
but the left and the right thing.
You just got to know how to come down, so you just don't keep going, right? There she goes.
Probably easier than I'm thinking about it. I just see some floating over our area in Auburn and Lakeland Hills, and a couple months ago, one got a little bit too low to the lake. And I don't know if you heard the news story. Some boaters drove over and like helped it get to the other side, so to speak, because it was too low and it missed like a draft. And I don't know, the pilot, I guess, came down a little too quick for the sightseeing trip. And then so they kind of helped it along over to the other side of the lake. So,
wow. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm nervous about, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it can be dangerous. You got to have people that know what they're doing.
I would hope so.
And I've flown in balloons over like Cappadocia and Turkey and things like that. And it is a little, at first you're like, I don't know about this, right? But I think it's like everything, be careful, be professional and float around.
There you go. Like, that's all you can do.
Pretty amazing. It's a very amazing experience. So,
cool.
Yeah. I'll bring back pictures.
Please do from up there looking down. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I was laughing because, everyone's talking about 3i Atlas showing up and there's another one called R2 that's coming from the other way. So these great big, huge, who knows if they're spacecraft or whatever that are headed this way. And I was like, well, maybe when I'm up there, I'll just float up to 3i Atlas. I'm out of here.
Send a postcard.
Never know. I'll send a postcard.
Right.
Having a great time on the tropical planet.
Right.
Wish you were here.
Yeah. Maybe I'm sure they've got email.
I'm sure they do.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Well, that was fun. That was a fun conversation. Thanks, Benny. I like talking to you. Yeah, I do. So let's jump into astrology and bring on my excellent guest today. We've had some really powerful things going on. We're coming out the other end of September, which was overwhelmed by the eclipse season. Sunday, the 21st, we had the new moon solar eclipse, and then we had the autumn equinox on September 22nd. We also had on September 22nd, the first day of Navratri, the 9 days of the celebration of the goddess. And that's going to be going for 9 days. And it's kind of a fun thing. I do a lot of chanting and things like that. So I'm kind of into that. And who doesn't want to celebrate the goddess? I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, she has some fierce forms. So be careful out there. This week, we're also feeling Mars square Saturn, which is called the classic frustration aspect. It's like driving with the brakes on. So if you've been feeling some frustration or you're trying to surge ahead, but then there's these delays and obstacles that are testing your patience, don't try to push too hard right now. Instead, exhale, breathe, and move step by step. And at the same time this week, we have Mercury, the planet of communication, making tense aspects with both Pluto and Chiron. So expect intense conversations or hidden truths surfacing. Words could sting this week, but they can also heal if we listen with compassion. Look ahead, Venus moves into Scorpio next week. Whew, that sounds heated, bringing intensity to love, finances, and creativity. Relations may feel deeper, more passionate, and more transformative. So my little advice for all of my wonderful listeners, and thank you for tuning into the show. It means so much to me. Journal. Yes, I did say journal. We're going to talk about the written word today. A journal about what came up around the eclipse and the equinox and what's coming up for you. Be patient with Mars, Saturn. Persistence wins. And use your words with care this week. They carry great power. I can't think of a better astrological report for my guest, Professor Carl David Blake. I've had Carl David Blake on my show before. He's excellent. He's a Guinness World Record winning film director, international best-selling author, producer, a professor of English and communications. He has written, produced, and directed 7 independent films, including Differences Between Men and Women, which broke the record for the longest wedding dress train. I love that. He was born in the Bronx, educated in Florida. He has a BS in biology and zoology, an MA in mass communication from the University of Southern Florida. He has authored English textbooks with HarperCollins. I'm not even sure I can talk to you, Carl. He's inspired thousands of students in his classrooms, and he's inspired Loretta Brown, and he brought provocative, thoughtful stories to the screen. Carl's creative work spans from Bollywood-inspired novels like Dance with Me, The Karmic Love Affair that dangerously changed a young Mumbai woman, to Ingenee, the most powerful woman ever lived. If you haven't gotten that book, you need to get it, which distilled years of his teaching. And I've got his newest book, Power of the Written Word, from amateur to entrepreneur, if you can say it. It's not just a writing manual, it's a strategic toolkit. It's really an amazing book. It's like everything you ever wanted to know, and there it is. Carl makes the case that writing is the hidden superpower of the 21st century, and we all need to step into that. So Carl, welcome to the show. It's so fun to have you here. It's just fun. Yeah.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Benny. I really appreciate both of you.
Yeah, I love the title, Power of the Written Word. Carl, what inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me to write this book is after I wrote the two English textbooks, I co-authored two English textbooks, I needed one that was modern. I'm still thinking about possibly teaching again. I could say, and I was thinking while, over the last few minutes while you were going over the astrology and the importance of speaking, there's such an importance of reading and writing that we're losing in the United States. And I definitely have the skill to help a lot of people. And I could say that out of all the things I've ever done in my life, teaching English, I had the biggest impact on people. I took them from they were just failing in schools. And I said that you will be able to write a paragraph on a graduate school level when you leave this class. You will compete with graduate students. And one of the difficult things is because I wrote a book, when they would hand you the curriculum, I would throw it out in the garbage, or I would read it to the students and say, this is what you will not learn in the class. This is what they want me to teach, but then you will not learn about literature. You will not learn about art. You'll not learn about philosophy. You're not going to learn about current events. You're not going to write about current events. You won't even touch the research paper. You might not even get to the essay. Okay. You are going to learn something you have never learned in English composition. You're going to learn vocabulary, sentence structure skills, how to punctuate the sentences, how to combine them, and then you're going to write paragraphs, simple paragraph, extended paragraph, and then we're going to go over the rhetorical modes, which very few people. I was looking on Udemy, and I'm looking at all these writing courses from, technical writing, creative writing, business writing, and none of them are covering the basics you need. None of them. Now, I didn't say some of them aren't good, but they're just assuming you know a block of stuff you don't. Mm-hmm. And you also need to practice it. So this book, if you grab this book, you don't need high school English. You don't need college English. You can replace 5 years of English with this book. Absolutely. If you do all the exercises, if you do the work, you got to do the work.
Well, and that brings me to a really good question because, we live in a world with extremely short attention spans. I think Amit Goswami's told me it was 1.5 seconds. I think it's less than that now, but okay, next, right? Like people are moving so fast. And so in this world with such a short attention span, and I'm already going to bring in this idea of AI, tell me about the importance of writing and how we address that, honestly, because I know I'm saying a lot here, but I know you'll say a lot too. I am very aware of the fact that I'm concerned about the level of our education, what people are being taught, what they're not being taught. Couple of months ago, I had a friend's daughter wanted to kind of help me do a few things in the office, and I wanted her to file some of my reports. And she came to me and she said, I can't read your cursive writing. I can only read print. And yes. So please jump in there, Carl.
I want to add that. Did you notice I put cursive writing in with the foreign languages in the book?
I saw that. Yeah.
If you would have told me that when I taught, I wouldn't have believed you in a million years. Mm-hmm. But okay, here is what. People are depending on AI way too much. Now, somebody just sent me this morning, and I already knew about it, but right now, what they do is they put these radioactive tracers in your blood to test you, and they can see area of your brain that light up. Okay, they're just radioactive glucose, and they could see how it utilizes in the brain. It's not lighting up in some areas for these children who are using AI. It's not even lighting. This is going to stunt their brain growth drastically. Everybody goes, AI so smart. I got to tell you, you're going to laugh at this. I asked, did you ever Google your name? Everybody does. I say, well, okay, did you ever put your name through AI?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, it's
I'll try it. I'll try it. Yeah.
Once about a year ago, it didn't know who I was. Then it had these like great things. He's a filmmaker, a Guinness World. Then it said he claims to have won a Guinness World Record. I said, what do you mean I claimed? And I said, I was typing. I said, what do you mean I claimed? Here is a clip in YouTube showing me breaking it. He goes, and the AI comes back and goes, we don't know how to use YouTube. I'm like, really? I got the dumb AI, the dumb, lazy teenager AI. So it didn't even know how to look at it. I said, so you're telling people that I'm claiming, and then I'm thinking, ooh, this could be really bad. Because if they didn't know, they would think, I just made it up possibly. And it didn't know how to check. So I'm like, you definitely don't want to use that. And then something really interesting. I said, okay, in the age of AI, in the 21st century, what is going to be your greatest skill? If you could improve one skill, what would it be? You know what it said? Writing. And then it said, writing might be the most underrated skills of the 21st century. That's the title of my PR, my press release for the book. Why writing might be the most underrated skill of the 21st century. That came from AI's inability to verify my Guinness World Record. But I said, oh, I love that title. I'm using that as a title. So I did have the press release with that, but this is really serious. You saw the 3 interviews that I did at the end. Like one of them was, which is more deleterious to your mental health, your own negative thoughts or toxic people? And I've asked, psychiatrists, one of the most fascinating questions. So I put it in the book. I make sure I have over 100. One of the things I noticed was when I talk to people, especially young people, between 2 minutes and 20 seconds and 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I could see the dopamine being drained out of their system, and they start they need more of a hit, and they think I'm boring or something like this. They think I'm fascinating for about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I could literally see the drop in alertness, intelligence, and this nanotechnology is killing these kids. I could say, and I was telling a friend of mine, that one of my favorite things to do is have breakfast where I invite all sorts of smart people and we exchange ideas. One of my buddies is my new buddies is a friend who's a semi-retired. He likes it because he's writing books right now. Semi-retired psychiatrist, and he goes through a lot of it. And I asked him about that, about the dummying out of America, what's happening, and he says it is absolutely one of our biggest disasters in the United States right now. He goes, I can't even imagine where it's going. Somebody needs to grab the reins of this boat and turn it completely around and ignore everybody crying and complaining. So one of the things right now they're doing is how important journaling is, how important writing, print, and cursive. They both affect the brain slightly differently. The writing, today they don't use any. I do like word processors because I can edit and correct my mistakes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do like to throw something through AI every once in a while.
Yes.
To see what it comes out with. But, so many of these kids thinking, well, if I just do AI, I could just say, you're going to write me a story? I'm like, then what do they need you for?
Exactly.
You just verified we don't need you at all for anything. And so the people who can really write well are going to challenge AI. And one of the things that I noticed is, young girls love to talk, right? Do you remember when you were a teenager talking on the phone for hours, right? And we talked.
It was the banana phone on the wall with a big curly thing. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The banana phone. We had a banana phone in the kitchen. with a long cord.
They will not relate to that. Trust me.
No,
I
know. People are like, "What's she talking about?"
We were tethered to the cord. Yeah. So a lot of what they did was, they paid attention to each other, then go out and play. Then girls read a lot. They had diaries. They don't do that anymore. Yeah. And one of the superpowers of women is in their brain structure, the hemisphere is divided by this thing called the corpus callosum. You can look at a female brain. You could look at a brain and say, oh, that's a female brain, because your corpus callosum is twice as thick, 1.5 to twice as thick. You can just look at a brain and know whether it's male or female. It's not even close. So one of the things is the left and the right hemisphere do more communication with women. And that's your superpower. If you don't develop it, oh Lord, you're wasting that brain. You're wasting what God has given you, the extra, information there. That's why they can multitask so well, And
I'm fascinated by that comment. I'm actually fascinated by that comment. Yeah, keep talking. Huh.
Yeah. So this is a woman's superpower. That's why, when they say, guys can't do too much at one time. They we do multitask, but not the way a woman does it. So if you develop that, it's going to be much harder to replace a really smart, creative woman with AI than anybody else. That's going to be our superpower, because the AI is not even close to what the human brain is and what a woman could do with both sides of her brain. And they're not even developing it now. And I was just talking to a woman at a coffee shop, and she asked if she could hang out with my group. She says, I don't have any friends to talk on a high level with. And I'm like, that's unbelievable. And I see so many young people, and I said, you have to put the effort into it. You got to find it. But then I realized their whole generation is raised without it. Mm-hmm. We used to tell stories. You saw on chapter 6 when Armand directed his first film. I won't give it away whose career he launched. But when he was sitting around the campfire telling stories for hours and hours, you're making these things up or telling jokes when you got a little bit older. None of that goes on anymore. We're just getting input. And when you just get input is great, but you're not creative. So when I taught, I would have them read their papers up in the front of the class, and they love competing with each other. But that was still 20 years ago. I don't know if the students, if I stepped into it. So with this book, I really thought about teaching overseas. I thought about either teaching in Japan for a year, Korea for a year, even Dubai. I'm open. Not right now, but the first thing I said was, if I do teach overseas, I got to write a book. I got to show them that I'm a head and shoulders above any of their competition. So, because I taught in college, so I don't want to be grouped in with these people with 2 or 4 year degrees that really don't know how to teach. So I could do some very advanced. And the stuff you learn here, you could apply to any language. Use the same rhetorical modes, and you could tell the students if they write well in their language. A lot of times they come over here and say, well, they're having problems with English. You just say, well, they had problems with Spanish. They had problems with Italian. You can tell by the way they write. They may get the syntax wrong. They may get their subject-verb agreement not right, but they use their vocabulary. And you could see that a person who doesn't write well doesn't use that type of vocabulary. And you could see, and you could help them. So that's a diatribe with AI.
You have said so many things, and honestly, I like everything you're saying, but the power of the written word and the power of vocabulary. I'm even thinking, like, one of my questions is, what happens, like, I'll call it alchemy, or what happens when people take all these scattered ideas and organize them? Hold on to that question for a second. When I grew up, I had a father who was very much a debater, a philosopher, a word person. He was a very intelligent man, and we read books all the time. But we used to have this great big fat dictionary. It was this thick, Carl, old leather-bound dictionary, and it sat on this little table. I'll never forget. It was like better than the Bible. It was just sitting on this little table to the side, and my dad would purposely use these big words, and I'd say, what does that mean? And he'd say, you have to look it up. And I'd be like, I don't know how to spell it. So then you had to pronounce it, and you had to figure it out. And it's one of my really delicious childhood memories, but it expanded my vocabulary and also expanded my ability to, like I really do believe when you work on the written word, right, and when you really work on your vocabulary and you increase your capacity for that, I think it changes everything. So
absolutely, and every occupation has their own acronyms and vocabulary as well. So you want to be able to use it. And it's so funny that you mentioned the thick one dictionary. I used to make my freshman English students bring a hardback dictionary. And I said, if you don't dazzle me with a new word, you're not getting an A for this class. I don't care how good you are. You better dazzle it. And they would sift through it, and they would use words I didn't know. And I said, well, that's really good, and I would force them to do it. There were so many students that liked my class that I remember having my supervisor analyze me during the class. And then she enjoyed it so much, she laughed. She went twice in the same term, and that never happens. I'm like, why don't you just admit you like sitting in the class and listening to these students? But it was the competition and the fact that I gave them what they needed. There was no extra garbage in there. You're going to learn how to write, and on a graduate school level. The reason why are students having so much problems writing essays? Because they can't write paragraphs. You force them into essays again and again and again, and it's a waste. You're wasting your time. Get them and a research paper. They're just getting them online, and they can't. And I'm telling you, the superpower that's going to defeat AI is going to be a smart woman who's creative. That's going to do it. The Ingenee, that's going to do it. That's good. That's going to defeat AI, where they're going to say, yeah, I think it's a great tool, but I think we're going to have to, as far as across the board, we're going to have to scrap it because it's not ready yet. So, I want to encourage so many people to get my book, because they're not teaching this. They're just, I went through, if you don't believe me, go to Udemy, go to these others and look it up. And you could look at their entire curriculum. They're not covering what they need to do.
No, they're not at all. They're not at all. We're going to take a little station break. And this is Loretta Brown. My amazing guest is Carl David Blake. It's such a delight. His book is Power of the Written Word. And you can just go buy it during the break and then come back. And we're going to continue on because I have so many more questions. We'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. All clear, you two?
Statistics show that roughly 20 veterans die by suicide every day in the United States. Canines for Warriors is the leading nonprofit organization providing highly trained service dogs to veterans with PTSD and other invisible wounds of war. Backed by scientific research, Canines for Warriors has transformed the lives of more than 1,000 veterans, helping them reclaim their independence. To find out more, please visit caninesforwarriors.org.
Did you know that Reiki healing can be done at a distance? It's true. So let Reiki Oasis focus powerful energy to help relieve your stress, grief, sadness, anger, and so much more. Convenient, personalized treatments at a distance can increase lightness of being. During your appointment, find a quiet place to lie down or sit to receive healing energies. If you want help with your dis-ease, visit ReikiOasis.com. Harness life's energy. Visit ReikiOasis.com today.
Do you have something important to say? Want to help improve our world? Need to promote your business uniquely and effectively? KKNW is the answer. Our staff helps broadcasters and podcasters create professional sounding audio. Bring your talents and let our experts help you craft a radio show or podcast that best delivers your message. Learn more at 1150kknw.com. That's 1150kknw.com. KKNW, variety talk radio that's live and local.
Make us part of your daily routine. Alternative Talk 1150.
You guys ready to come back? All right, stand by.
2, 3 dishes, and I'm giving you a long look every day, every day, every day, every day I write the book.
Woo-hoo, every day I write the book. That was great. Man, Betty, you are just so magical. I don't know how you do it.
Just as magical as those Seattle Mariners. Come on, let's do this. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Woohoo! Yeah, I love it. Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show. I hope you're enjoying the show as much as we are. My guest today is the amazing Carl David Blake, Power of the Written Word. A reminder that you can find these shows in the archives of KKNW 1150 AM for the original Loretta Brown Show. And of course, we're everywhere. We're on YouTube right now. We're on iTunes, Podcast One, Spotify, X, Megaphone. I don't know. I'm sure I've left something out, but you get the idea. And then, Carl, you have a website. What's your website? Where can people go to find out more about you?
CarlDavidBlakeProductions.com. And I'm also, the book is on Amazon. So you can look at Carl David Blake Amazon. You'll see my 4 books up there.
That sounds great. So a couple of things. You were talking before in the first part of the show about Chapter 6. Armand directs his first Hollywood film. And then you told me something during the break I really wanted you to just say on air. Could you say that?
That essay took me, the short version is in Quantum Activation, but when he told me the longer version, really how he put together his life and what an amazing man he is. And he's one of my dear friends. Again, one of my breakfast buddies in Los Angeles. I miss him. Armand, if you see this, I miss you. So he is a really famous director. He's directed, I don't know, 50-something movies. And he launched a major Academy Award actor's career. I don't want to tell you what it was because you'll read it in the book. But the Italian government wants to do a piece on Armand, and then they asked permission if they could use my chapter to do that. And I'm like, of course you could use it. It's your story. But one of the things I did was I asked a lot of questions. We rewrote it. We both rewrote it 50 times to make sure it was really good. One of my favorite paragraphs in it is when after he directed his first film, he was at the Beverly Hills Hotel, I think it was, and he got a basket of snacks. And I describe it using narration and description. You'll see that in the chapter very clearly. You could visualize it. He even said that that was one of his favorite paragraphs in the piece there. So I used exactly what I've been teaching in here, and I go much further. We do some creative writing in this book, but we do the basics of all writing. And as I'm looking at it, there's basics of all writing. You got to have vocabulary building nonstop. Sentence structure skills, when you learn that, you learn how to punctuate, you learn how to formulate your thoughts on that one level. And then you could do a paragraph and expand a paragraph, all while integrating the rhetorical modes. I do a creative visualization. I did that for my students, and I'm going to do that on my YouTube channel. Right now, I just have motivational speakers on there. And once the book came out, which it did, I'm going to start doing some more stuff on there. I do technical writing on there. A little bit about public speaking. One of the things that I do, I've never seen in any book, is I have a short film called My News. I have the screenplay in the book. I have a link to the movie, and I also wrote it in novel form. You could see, I'm telling you, you got everything in there. If you want to be a screenwriter, if you want to be a novelist, get the book, look at all the stuff. Do not pass the the stuff that you consider boring freshman English stuff. This is the stuff you really, really, really need. So we got that, and I do have some business stuff in there, pitching and other things in there that are very important. I was at a venture capitalist meeting in Salt Lake City, several of them, and I saw people looking for hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and their presentation skills were awful, and their ideas weren't that bad. Sometimes you only get one chance. And for just, I would have hired somebody, but you want to be able to present it, and you can't present it if you can't speak well. You can't present it if you can't write well. You can get somebody else to do that, but somebody's got to do it. And right now I belong to this place called Fiesta, where they have 1-minute pitches, and I'm watching those people and say, every one of them could use my help, but they don't think it. They don't think it's, I don't know. They call it, have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect? Oh, I thought I came up with it, but this Dunning-Kruger effect started in the 90s. It's where they call it puffery when you enhance your resume a little bit better than it is. Like, for example, if I bench press 347 and I tell people I'm bench pressing 350, that's puffery. If I can only bench press 100, and then I tell people,
I was going to say, can you do that? Anyway, keep going.
That's delusional. Okay. But in the Dunning-Kruger effect, people are actually believing they're that much better than they really are. There's no humility. The humility is being destroyed. And they're going around borderlining narcissistic personality disorder by the millions. So these guys measured the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it is absolutely insane. So when you're going to tell somebody, oh, listen, you might want to be able to do this, people can't take criticism like they used to. I wanted it. Any person I said the book, I'm like, listen, I'm not a wimp. I'm from New York. Tell me. Don't tell me after the book is published. Oh, you can, but tell me now. I want to know everything. I may not agree with you, but every single thing. And I had to tell him, like one reviewer, he's a business coach. I said, dude, tell me. And he goes, everything? Yes. You sure? Yes. And he found a bunch of errors. So I want to send you another book, because the book is sprinkled. I wouldn't say a bunch where you couldn't use it, but I'm a perfectionist, so I like to make things really good. And then there's a lot of other advanced techniques that you could use. I put a paragraph on one of them. I forgot the name of it, but I added that in there. But you mentioned that you had some questions about. When I talk about the brain lighting up, and
before you do that, hold on to that question, because yes, the brain lighting up and all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to point out to people, because it's so juicy. Your book is really not a dry textbook. It's not like, oh God, it's an English textbook. It's not that. I just want to encourage people. This is coming, Carl, you're such an expert at this, and such a language weaver, right? A master of it. And to understand what you're saying is, if people could just, master the language a bit, the written word, the spoken word. And we do know that public speaking is like the number one fear people have, because they're like, blah, 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 I don't know what to say. But in your book, you go everything from sentence structure. You got 23 chapters in here, everything from basic paragraph form and all the way down into different types of narratives, expositions, technical writing, emails, meetings, public speaking, short movie scripts, novel scripts, the pitch, being a leader, building your team, international business. So this is something that's, to me, is like a foundational building block. If you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to master your craft, go further, this is going to help you. This book is just simply going to help you. And you also have it written in such a lovely way. You've got exercises. You're taking people through the whole thing. So I just wanted to put that plug in there for the book. And to me, it's one of those things that you're going to read and you're going to highlight and underline, and then you're going to go back and you're going to do it. And you are going to have to do the work, people. But this is fun work. I don't think of anything much more fun than language. Honestly, I love language. I love music, but I love language. So, like for instance, somebody could say, well, it looks like a beautiful day. Or they could say, wow, this is the most beautiful, radiant day I've ever been in, blah, blah, blah. Like you could say it better than me. But anyway, so there's that, right? And then I do want to go back into the lighting up of the brain. And also, you had said something else I wanted to jump into. Yeah. What happens when we begin to put this all together? And also, I don't know if you can address if we're actually writing, on a piece of paper, like in cursive, if we know how to do cursive, or printing versus typing, is there a difference in the way that lights up our brain?
Yes.
Can you answer that question? Okay.
Yes. There is definitely a way it lights up your brain. I'm not saying don't ever use the word processor, because that will definitely light up different areas slightly. But, and I'm not a physiology expert, but they are now seeing which areas the brains light up on which topics. And also, just the other day, yesterday, somebody said, "Oh, you taught English in college?" Yeah. And he goes, "Oh yeah, well, so you don't understand any of the mathematics stuff, obviously. You probably never did calculus." I said, "No, my undergrads are biology and zoology. I've done a lot of calculus." Why would you think because I could write well, I can't think in other areas? Where did that come from? Because when I told them that my degrees in biology, I said, I use them every single day of my life. I look at the ingredients. We're talking about this. People like talking about all sorts of different topics. One of the things I did that's crazy, and I don't think anybody has ever done that I've heard of, is after I got my degrees in biology and zoology, I audited a year's worth of literature classes just so I could be able to speak. I didn't know who Henry David Thoreau did, because I did all my classes all my electives were science. So, Walt Whitman, William Carlos Williams. I didn't know Othello. I just didn't know anything, the Canterbury Tales. And so I really studied this stuff, and I just loved it. So I think it's knowledge. The Renaissance knowledge. And it also goes down to the romance. Like when people talk romance, they just think it's, in the bedroom. But romance is having great discussions, being the Renaissance man and all this other stuff. And though that's dying in the United States, it's really, I think marriages are crashing and burning because of this. How do you look at somebody who's dumb as a box of rocks the next 10 years? They don't know anything. They don't say anything. This, I must have hit a nerve there, right?
Well, I'll come and have coffee with you sometime. Oh, man. Yeah, for sure.
And marriages are I would say that is one of the reasons they're crashing and burning. You're not very few people are interesting. Do something. Go, like, you're fascinating. You go to Egypt, you go to do all these other things. And, and I thought about it. And one of the things, like what you mentioned before, Carl, get you should do those movies, the Ingenee. I'm like, I'm with you, girl. I'm totally with you. But one of the things I want to do is I'm really thinking about teaching English again overseas. And I thought, okay, if I do, what should, what do I need? And one of them is the book, which is done. And also when I was going to use this just for high school kids and early college. And when I was at one of those venture capitalist meetings, one of my editors, I didn't know her at that time. She was standing right next to me, and they said, "What are you doing it for the high school kids? Do it for us.
Yes.
We got the money. Yes. We need it." And I'm like, all I needed to do was change 4 pages. That's how this thing transfers over. 4 pages, and then it's back for entrepreneurs. I'm telling you, it all the same. It doesn't matter whether you're creative writing, doesn't matter if business writing, it doesn't matter if report writing. It's all the basic is the same. You've got to learn how to write, creative visualization. And I just can't stress knowledge as important. And it's killing friendships too.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going into, meeting different people, and I'm just listening to them. I'm like, you didn't pick up anything over the last 20 years of your life? Nothing besides watching TV, really? And it's, what a boring, a banal existence. That's what
Yeah, yeah.
And so
I have a pet peeve regarding cell phones, mobile devices, screens. And, I have a little thing. If you come visit me, I have a basket by the front door, and you put your phone in there, and you can go check it, but you can't sit on the couch with it, or I want to talk to you, right? And it causes so much anxiety. You can't believe it, Carl. So much anxiety. But anyway,
most of the times with my friends, nobody's ever brought their phone. The only thing, if they say, I'm expecting a call.
Yes.
And 1% of the time that happens.
Yes.
1%.
Yes. Yes.
Other than that, I think it's so disrespectful to put that phone right there and go, whoa, this is more important than you.
But I think it is destroying our relationships, and also our ability to communicate. And what you said also, like I think I said during the break, like I'm always asking people, what are you reading? What's your book? And they're like, reading. And I'm like, yeah, reading. Are you reading something? Yeah.
So the other thing that I really wanted to let people know is there is a lot of business in it.
Yes.
The business emails, one of the things was, do not waste people's time. Setting up meetings, do not waste people's time. People think they go in a meeting this and they're doing something. Wasting time is not doing something. So also learning how to be very concise. That's where the technical writing comes in. If you are doing instructions, you don't have to say, putting a desk, the wonderful, delightful desk. It's a desk. Just tell me how to put it together. So you have to know when to be very concise. And that's something. It's also massively dangerous to our medical profession, not writing well and not understanding. You will be absolutely shocked on the medical errors that are going on because they can't write well. Just that's a whole other area.
Wow.
But they need me to go in there and redo it, because you have to be able to be accurate. You have to be able, and you have to know what you're talking about. You have to. I went to a doctor. I went to a dentist years ago, and they did my blood pressure, and the woman said it was 160/120. And I'm like, that would be like dead. So I'm like, are you sure you got the right one? She goes, well, this is the old one. I'm not sure if it works. You want me to get the new one? I'm like, why don't you get the new one? And she goes, oh, it's 120/80, which is good. And she goes, but the 120s match. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, dear.
Oh my God. How do they let you near that stuff? So when that was a medical error. I just happened to know it. And so it's dangerous out there with that. Writing, this might be the most important skill of the 21st century, from creativity to the medical profession across the board. They need it. So, and did you have any other questions on the AI or anything like that?
No, not necessarily. I am very aware of the fact that we are moving in a direction with AI being a part of our life, but I really also agree with something that you said. I think that we need to make sure that we balance ourselves, that we're not on it all the time, or that it doesn't replace us, that it becomes an assistant to what we're doing, and it is not doing the creativity, right? And yeah. And I think you address that. For me, it's just a matter of taking the time to hone your skills, especially if you haven't been taught. I do have a question. I want you to talk about Ingenee a little bit, because I love Ingenee.
Oh,
and
she's perfect on this.
Yeah.
Could you imagine her waking up now? She'd freak out.
So tell people who Ingenee is, and very briefly, right? And there's a book, right? And I hope there's a movie. But
you and me both. The book Ingenee I wrote, it was inspired by a medieval professor of literature who told me about her when I was an undergraduate. I was also interested in literature, even though I was getting my degree in biology at that time. And when I asked him who his favorite character of all time, at that time it was Moses. And I was expecting him to say Moses, and he said Ingenee. And I'm like, who the heck is Ingenee? So he told me the story. He said it was never written down. And he says, maybe you should write it one day. And part of my resistance was I didn't want to promote Christianity, not that I had anything against it, but I just wasn't a religious person at that time. So it just something hit where I wrote a screenplay called Unprotected. I got a lot of interest on it. And so that would be the first half of the Ingenee book. Then I decided to add Ingenee in there, and she took over the book. In my dream, she told me what's going on with 100% accuracy. I did zero research, zero. The only thing I did was I checked something she said about the size of the boat in the 1100s, and she was right on the money. The path from Calais to Dover, she was right on the money. The trade from Ethiopia, she was right on the money. There were too many things that went along. She is a protector of the intellect. At 4 years old, she was a traveling scholar because her dad was a traveling scholar. She comes from a line of Islam, on one side, Islamic princesses. So she's a very interesting character. She's one of my favorite characters. I love her because she did everything right. I love her because she was absolutely brilliant. She spoke 12, 15 languages. Her diary is supposed to be out there still. It's supposed to be one of the most complex books ever written by one person, because she used the nuances. So even if you can decipher the language, you still wouldn't know what she was talking about, because you have to know the nuances within each language. Even in the North and South here, speaking English, we have different nuances. So that it's amazing. Thinking about her, I think about her every day. I know that this book needed to come out before. Armand, you know what? I talked to him briefly about it. I did send him the book, so I want to get that. I want to get the idea out there. So my next project is I want to get that class done, and so I'm doing the outline, and then I want to hit that movie. So the first half of it would still be. It was a movie called Unprotected, and it got a lot of interest on it. So the movie is basically like that, and the first half. So the Ingenee book would be 2 movies. So you really wouldn't get to see her until the second movie, but it would go back into the medieval period. It would, I don't want to say I love Game of Thrones, but it would make Khaleesi look like, Pee Wee Herman. It would just really, it would, if Ingenee got in the Matrix, she would just be dominating in there. It wouldn't. It would be unfair for the competition.
Yeah, if you haven't read Ingenee, you can get that book by Carl David Blake. That is a book that I started to read, and I literally couldn't put it down. Like it was just, and it's stuck inside me. Also, it's like kind of stuck inside me somehow, and so yeah, it's great. It's powerful, and I think it's a lot of the things you're doing. In fact, maybe everything you're doing is very needed right now on planet Earth, especially at the time that we're in, right? Yeah.
And we need people like you who are getting the word out of all these wonderful things. So you're very much appreciated, Loretta.
Thank you. I love doing it because I like getting stuff out there for people that look over here. Maybe this will help you. So we are down to like the end of the show. What do you really want people to get from this, and even from you? What's your message for people today?
Get this book for your kids. They're not teaching them in school. Get this for your kids and find somebody who can teach you. Just because you got the book and you gave it to a teacher, we're replacing with teachers who don't know what they're doing. And so get this book, even if it's 2 or 3 people, find somebody who can teach them with this book, and they will surpass their fellow students by far. And it's not to put the other ones down or surpass them, but these are skills they need to have. They absolutely need to have. I'm seeing it in the business world. They're failing. They're failing to get the funding.
Yeah. I think of the level of literacy versus illiteracy And literacy is a power. And I really do mean it. The power of the written word is real. It's a real power. And the spoken word also very powerful. But anyway, Carl David Blake, it's been a joy and delight and fascinating to talk to you this morning. And I just wish you all of the best. And thank you so much. And Benny Mathers, thank you.
And thank you for having me on, Loretta. Thank you so much. And thanks, Benny.
Anytime, Carl, anytime.